Hello and welcome to the Too Much Apparently podcast. If you're new here, this is a podcast for the deeply feeling, overthinking, emotionally overloaded humans who've been told they're too much apparently. And if you're back, thanks for choosing to sit with us again.
We're Alice and Carly, two therapists who are also just sensitive weirdos trying to make sense of life, healing, and our own brains. This isn't a professional advice podcast. It's more like the messy, honest conversations that happen when you finally feel safe enough to say what you're really thinking.
This space is for people like us, the ones who've been called too sensitive, too serious, too emotional, too intense, and have spent way too long believing that it's true.
Okay, on with the episode.
Today we're talking about the fear of being boring.
Preferring a night in with a book or a board game or your craft supplies while everyone else is going to the pub or out clubbing.
And then there's that moment when someone says, "Oh, come on, don't be so boring." And you feel a mix of shame and defensiveness.
We want to explore where that fear comes from, why sensitive people might carry it more, and how to reclaim boring as not actually boring at all.
So I'm really curious about how this is for you.
Yeah, I will have a strong connection with this episode. This is quite, a big one for me and something that's featured a lot in my life. How about you?
Yeah, so when I saw that you'd chosen this title for this episode, part of me was like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to say for this episode, because I think I almost just don't think about it. I just don't even think about whether I'm boring or fun or not. And having sat and reflected a little bit and thought about what am I going to say today, more stuff has come up. But I think on the whole, I don't really mind if people think I'm boring. I think by the end of the episode, I'll be saying something different, but
right, okay.
That was my initial thought. Yeah, but it sounds like it's a bigger thing for you.
Yes, yeah. But I feel like that's probably a good thing because it means we'll be able to bring different perspectives and experiences ultimately to this episode and what we're going to be discussing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what is it about being boring or fun that really catches something for you?
When I think back, I don't know how long this has been a thing for me, how long this has been a worry for me. Definitely in later years, but I don't know how far back it goes. So it's interesting for me to think about where has it come from in terms of going like right back to when I was younger. But it's definitely been prevalent as an adult.
Yeah, okay.
Thinking about it now. Maybe because when I was a child or when I was a teenager, I just did the fun, doing air quotes here, the fun thing because I felt like I was supposed to. So in my late teens, I was a receptionist at a hotel, and so many people that worked at the hotel were young. They were either at uni or just like me, figuring out what on earth they were doing with their life. And so there were so many young people, and it meant that there was a real social culture of going out and drinking. So at the time, I thought that was great. And there was always lots of drama. It was a bit like a soap opera in terms of like who was secretly getting with who in the linen cupboard and all those kinds of things. But it's just made me realize how much I just went along with the general consensus of what it means to be young and fun. And when I think about that, and especially with the culture in this country, it's going out drinking.
Yeah.
And going out to the clubs and getting home at like 6 o'clock in the morning. And somehow, I don't know how, but when I worked at that hotel, sometimes I would go on a night out and not get back till say 4 a.m. and then be at work for like 6:30 in the morning. I have no idea how I did that.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that's why the boring element has come in later in life when I've realized that actually I don't really like those things. On the odd occasion, I do, but typically that's not really my scene. And I think in the past, I just made myself do that so that I could be seen as fun and cool and exciting and a person that you want to be around. Whereas the person that I actually am is tucked up under a blanket, reading a book, a candle on, and going to bed at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, which just sounds cozy and wonderful. And yeah, so that was partly why I was so curious about what this episode was about for you, was because when you talk about some of the things that you do, I'm like, oh, that's fun. Like when I come round to your house, you've always got some project on the go. I'm like, oh, you always do so much. You always do so much fun stuff. But yeah, but what I hear is that for you, I don't even know how I want to say that.
Or can I just jump in quickly?
Yeah.
But you're saying, oh, you have so much fun stuff on the go. But again, that comes back to what our perspective of fun is, because a lot of people would think just staying in and doing a crafty thing would be a bit like, oh, why aren't you getting out? What you staying in for, just with your crafts? So you're seeing that and thinking, oh, you've always got a fun project on the go. But we're quite similar in terms of then what we get. Like I feel like I could invite you over just to come and do a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
But that would be the last thing on many people's minds in terms of like inviting a friend round to do a jigsaw puzzle. What? But we'd be like, oh, yeah, that sounds dead fun. That does.
Yeah.
And so I know a lot of this comes down to everybody's individual perception of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I do know logically that the things I'm interested in are not boring. They are fun to me and they are fun to other people. But emotionally and culturally, and the people around me, what they deem as fun is a total mismatch to me. And so then it ends up where I feel like I'm being boring, or I have outright been told, like we said in the intro, oh, don't be so boring. I have heard that phrase many times from saying no. Like if I've been out all day and then people are saying, oh, shall we go to the pub for a few? I'm thinking, no, I've been out all day. I'd just like to go home now. I've had fun. And now I'm ready to go home. But if you say, actually, I think I'm going to get off. Come on, we're having a good time. Don't be so boring. Come on, come for a few drinks. And then it's just like, oh, you hear it enough times and you think, oh, people think that I'm boring.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I have withdrawn from those people so much and for
Right.
so long that I just don't really notice it anymore.
Mm.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't really have. This is where I started to feel a bit conflicted as I was thinking about what I wanted to say today. Is that I don't really have. Yeah, I don't have anybody in my life that would call me boring anymore. And I think that is because I am quite picky about who I spend time with. But also, I have been in spaces where I felt boring. And I think that's because I can be quite serious. And also because it takes me time to settle in to somewhere new or
Yes.
around new people that
Mm-hmm.
I can maybe be quite guarded. It's not a conscious thing. It's not like an active choice of like, oh, I'm going to be guarded until such a point that I feel like I cannot. But just yeah, it just takes me time to settle in somewhere. I feel like people don't always get a good sense of who I am in the beginning because I
Yeah.
can be too serious, and that's where my mind went with being boring.
Well, I relate to that as well. And I think that's why there's lots of different levels to it, because there's boring in relation to, or so called, should I say, boring in relation to how you spend your time and the activities that you enjoy and the things you say yes and no to.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's boring in the way that you just described if you feel like you come off as a serious person or sometimes are a bit guarded or take your time to warm up socially, for example. And then that jogged other things in my mind. I don't like things like what is seen as like pranks
Oh yeah.
or taking the mickey out of somebody when it's like, oh, banter.
Oh, I hate that word.
So when it's banter or when you're putting someone down for a laugh and it's just a joke and it's just a joke, but I always find that cruel.
Yeah.
It's when you see school children and they've pinched someone's bag and they're throwing it between them and the other person's just trying to get it back. And so many people just seeing that as harmless play, like we're just
Yeah.
having a laugh and we all do it to everybody. But when I see that, I mean, your face said it all, it breaks my little heart.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
So again, there's the being too serious, and then there's being told to lighten up in relation to jokes, almost like you've not got a good sense of humor because you don't find certain things funny, or you take everything too seriously, or you need to lighten up, or oh, it's just a joke.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I don't find that funny, and so my sense of humor is different. And again, that's then seen as not fun, and as you said, being serious.
Yeah. Yeah. I've connected with something that's really uncomfortable for me. And well, so there's a space that I go to that sometimes I go and I feel like, I fit in and I'm welcomed and, and it's all fine. And then sometimes I go and feel like the most boring person on the planet. So these people are often quite creative and fun, and maybe quite a few of them have got big personalities. And I feel like I go and It's interesting actually, because as I'm thinking about it in my head, I'm seeing them all in bright colors, like bright
Mm.
accessories or bright makeup, or um and seeing myself, maybe it's because of what I'm wearing today, but like entirely in black and like quite drab, and feeling like, oh, what have I got to offer here? And but it's confusing because I also have a part of me that knows exactly what I have to offer, but it almost feels the pressure to present what I have to offer in a really fun way,
Hmm.
when actually what I have to offer is deep and can be quite serious. And yeah, not quite sure how to loop that back to something fun.
It's so interesting that when you're imagining this group of people, all bright and colourful, and yourself dark and drab in the corner. And when you were talking, I think you mentioned like big personalities, and that made me think of another aspect to this as well. I think boring can come back to the extroversion introversion distinction and what it means to be. Oh, how long have I wished? I mean, not anymore, but definitely in the past, like, wished that I was a chatty, bubbly person. I mean, I'm just not, but how nice would it be to just be that bubbly person? I think because extroversion, typically you are more chatty, might be louder, people that have a loud, infectious laugh that just makes you smile to listen to it. I just feel like there's a lot of people that really embody this idea of fun and the kind of person that you want to be around. And
Mhm.
I just don't really feel like I'm that in that sense.
Do you think that's situation dependent? Because when I think about being with you, I feel like bubbly's not odd. Like you're not bubbly. I feel like there is a bubbliness to you. When we're together, I feel like there is a bubbliness to you. So I wonder about like maybe how you are in different situations.
I'm not really sure because so much of that has then become internalized
Mm.
that even when we spend time together, there is still a part of me that worries when you leave that I've not been fun enough. And especially because, so just to explain to listeners, Alice used to live relatively close to me when we first started meeting up. Then she left me and she she moved away. Not a million miles away, but it's a good hour and a half drive, isn't it? And then ever since then, you still really make the effort and do a really big round trip to come and see me like once a month, where we have takeaway. And so I think because like I'm thinking, oh, Alice is doing a 3 hour round trip to come and see me. And it's just so lovely that you do that. But there's this sense of, oh, she's come all this way and I hope she's not leaving thinking, well, that wasn't worth it. And all of these kinds of thoughts.
Yeah.
Logically, I kind of know that that's not the case, but it is still there. And it's very much a worry that comes up about wanting to be almost like, I always want to say like on form.
Mhm. So what's it like to hear then that actually I would use bubbly to describe you when we're together?
Doesn't seem right. Yeah, it doesn't seem right. Yeah. Maybe I'm bubbly in your eyes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of, so as I'm trying to understand like how it is for you and how you're seeing it, like if I kind of put you next to, say, a stereotypical bubbly person, I can be like, oh, right, okay, that's not the same. But yeah, I don't know. I just think about the silliness and the laughter, and that is there.
Yeah. See that, yeah. So I think that's why there is part of me that knows that I'm not boring.
Mm.
It's just different, isn't it? Yeah, you said it there, like silliness. And I do know that I can be silly. And I think that my silliness can be fun. And I can also sometimes be a bit childlike in the things that excite me and make me really happy.
Mm.
I feel like that silliness side, I think, is fun.
Hmm.
But it's not going to be fun for everybody. And so I do know there are parts of me that I don't think are boring, where I think I can be silly. I also have moments where I think, oh, I'm actually quite funny. Um, but again, it's when people's humor aligns with mine. And I think on the whole, I have cultivated friendships with people who do think I'm fun and interesting and get my sense of humor. And I think there are lots of people in my life, and I'm thinking about it now as I'm talking, I'm realizing I'm talking about family actually,
Mm.
where there is just so much difference. Because my humor, I'm never going to find fart jokes funny. Those kinds of silly types, slapstick, like when people accidentally hurt themselves. Like videos of real people injuring themselves. And I'm just like, this is just horrible. I don't get why this is funny. I'm never going to find silly stuff in that sense funny. I also know this isn't everyone's cup of tea, but I'm very open, and maybe it's my nursing background, or maybe it's what's classed as quote unquote oversharing, or what I will just say is sharing, about like bodily functions and stuff like that. Like I would just quite happily just share stories about bodily functions that lots of other people would never even speak about publicly, whereas I'm just like tell people and it usually gets a good laugh.
Yeah.
So if people are aligned with my sorts of humor of being just very open about what it means to be a human and then the types of things that can happen to you as a human and just have a good laugh about that, then I guess they're my people and they laugh at my very much openness. Whereas if I said that in other circles, people would genuinely probably be a bit horrified at what I'd shared.
Yeah. So I feel like we're back to that question again of who gets to decide.
Yeah.
So who gets to decide what's boring or fun?
With me mentioning family, my family on my dad's side are all quite big drinkers. They love to go out for a drink. They're in the pub a lot of the time. And my partner's family are the same. My mum's side of the family aren't big drinkers. They're actually a little bit more like me, maybe a bit more outgoing than me. But it means I've been surrounded by people who like to go out drinking, very much a part of pub culture. And pub culture is so big in Britain that if you're not somebody who likes to go out drinking very often, if you're not somebody that's really into pub culture, it's kind of like I could very easily go and meet my friends in the pub and have a drink. I mean, sometimes I'll be there ordering myself a peppermint tea, but it's not that I don't go to pubs. Like I'm fine meeting friends at the pub, but it's just about having a catch up with my friends.
Yeah. Rather
It's
than
very
getting drunk.
Yeah. It's not about getting drunk, and it's not really even about the drinking because I don't really like much alcohol, really. So it's very intentional. Like it could be at a pub, it could be at a walk, it could be in a cafe, but we're meeting to catch up rather than where the location is. Whereas for other people, it's about going down their local pub, sometimes even on their own, or they might know a couple of people in the community, and it's going to have that drink. And I feel like what I'm about to say is going to sound boring, but I used to say, I don't understand pub culture. Like, I don't get why everyone is gathering at a place to basically pay to dehydrate yourself because alcohol doesn't really hydrate you. So I'm like, I don't understand why everyone's going and paying all this money to go and dehydrate yourself. Like, I don't get it. Why is this such a big thing?
I love that. Why are they going to pay to dehydrate themselves?
I don't get it.
I love it. Oh dear.
But do you see what I'm saying? How many people would listen to that and be like, oh my God, what a boring person. And I do know it's about the social aspect of pub culture and stuff, but it still baffles me at the same time.
Yeah. I think like I said at the beginning, like my response to that is almost like, I just don't care. I just don't care. Yeah, but pub culture's never really been that much of a thing for me. I think so I had one job in particular where we would have payday Fridays and we would all go out and get really drunk. And I think I did enjoy that. But when you said about people going to the pub on their own, I'm always so fascinated by that. Like, I don't know, it's just something just feels a bit bleak about it. Yeah.
I think the same. And also, like nowadays, a pint's like a fiver. So again,
expensive.
I'm just like, that's where you want to put your money. Of all the things that you could do, the places you could go and see, the shows you could go and watch, of all the things you could go and put your money to, people could easily be spending a couple of £100 a month, if not more, on just being in the pub.
But see, what's just popped into my head now is, because I'm sat here like, oh yeah, pub culture seems really boring. I love my soaps. I love Coronation Street. I love Emmerdale. The amount of times that I watch them in the Rovers Return or in the Woolpack, and I'm like, oh, I wish I had some friends to hang out with at the pub. I think there's a community aspect of it.
Yes.
That I'm curious about that I've never really fitted into. Oh, I feel really muddled saying this because what's then popped into my head is when I was with my first husband, we used to spend a lot of time socializing around alcohol, often pub like beer gardens in the summer. But the focus was social. Yeah, see, I think what I find fun is just connection.
Yes.
It's not so much about the activity or whatever. I think it's about connection.
Yeah. And that's why
And
I do go to pubs.
yeah.
And in the summer, I do quite like sitting in a beer garden. It can have quite a nice feel to it.
Hmm.
But it's something that happens every once in a while. I couldn't imagine my life being
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
going to the pub, or the idea that you're boring for like not being really into
Yeah.
like a pub or a club. I mean, how do you feel about clubs?
I feel torn with this. Maybe this is maybe two sides of my personality. So just to go back a bit, when I was saying about like connection in pubs, when you say pub culture, when I think about pub culture, I think about not connection. I think about surface level, maybe gossip, maybe I don't
Mm,
even know what people really talk about in the pub. But what
football.
I'm interested in, right, okay. But what I'm interested in is deep conversation, kind of like going back to the 2 episodes we did on small talk.
Mm,
Like I'm interested in deep conversation. So alcohol sometimes is great for facilitating deep conversations because people talk more freely than they would than if they were sober. Yeah. So I think that's kind of where my aversion to that kind of thing is. Um, but clubs. So actually, I don't know if it was in the intro or somewhere else, but I read about clubbing and I was like, oh, I feel like a grandma. Like I'm nearly 40 and I feel like a grandma. Clubbing feels like a lifetime ago.
mhm.
But also I miss it. I miss it. I would love to go to a rave or yeah, just the booming music and dancing and all of that. I love that. So Carly and I have just missed out on Lola Young's concerts that she's fortunately had to cancel. And I've
Yeah.
been fortunate enough to go to two already this year. And it's just like, it's so loud, like rattles through your body, and you can scream the songs at the top of your lungs and wave your hands around in the air. And yeah, I love that. I love that. So yeah, I do feel like I have different sides of my personality that I'm just as happy sitting. I would love to come to your house and do a jigsaw with you. And also, yeah, I do have that side of me that would like to go clubbing. I suppose the limitation that I have now is my energy capacity. I do not have the energy that I had in my 20s, which makes me feel so old to say that. Like when I used to hear older people saying that when I was in my 20s, I was like, oh no, they're probably boring. Probably thought they
Yeah.
were boring. And I was like, oh, I'm never going to be like that. But yeah, no, I can't. I can't do that. Stay out till 3 and be at work at 6:30.
Oh no, I couldn't even go out, be home by midnight and be at work for 9. Like,
Mhm.
no,
Yeah.
definitely not. But yeah, the same with clubbing. I don't think I've not been out for a couple of years, I think. But the parts about going out that I miss is I love music and I love to dance. And so the part about clubbing that I miss is just dancing the night away.
Mm.
And I really like that. But it's everything else about clubbing culture that I'm not keen on and that I don't like.
Tell me more about what you mean when you say clubbing culture that you don't like.
How drunk people get, how leery men are, and when they're trying to
Oh,
like dance with you or follow you to toilets and all the other crap that all us women know what
yeah,
happens when you're on a night out,
yeah.
the fights that people get into,
Mm.
worrying about how drunk sometimes people are. And I'm like thinking, like, I'm concerned for their well being and
Mhm.
police presence and yeah, and all of that side of things I don't like.
Yeah.
And then how packed you get, and then how sweaty you get at the end of the night, and then trying to get served at the bar, and you're stood in the spot for ages trying to just get a drink. And then I'm not even a massive fan of alcohol unless they taste like juice. So unless I'm paying then for expensive cocktails, just so I can at least enjoy the drink that I'm having. So there's
Yeah.
just so many, like getting a taxi at the end of the night. Oh, there's just so many extra elements to it where I'm just like, no, but put me in a club on a dance floor with a good DJ and just dance the night away with my friends having a laugh. Like that part, if I could just
Mhm.
capture that part, I love that
Yeah.
part.
Have you ever gone to one of those daytime dances or sober
No, but I have
things?
heard about those.
Yeah.
Like there's those daytime ones for like older
It's
people.
like
No,
for grannies.
I'm in that category.
Yeah. But you can't, no, it's cool.
Mm.
I'm sorry. I'm sure Annie Mac does one. I'm sure she does daytime and possibly sober.
Yeah, there's someone else.
raves, and
I'm sure a
Annie
comedian
Mac
or
is
somebody
cool.
does one. Yeah.
And Off Line of Duty from
Oh, that's who
Nottingham,
I'm thinking
Vicky.
of. Yeah,
What?
Vicky McClure?
Yes, yes,
Something like
she's
that.
cool.
Yeah, see, it's cool.
She's
So this all comes back to cultural expectations and cultural judgments around what it means to be fun and what it means to be boring, and the difference between I feel boring versus someone else thinks I'm boring. And I think for a long time, I've wanted to not be perceived as being boring. Whereas actually, it's about, can I be okay that some people will think I'm boring, but that does not mean that I am boring? And maybe some sort of acceptance around Western cultures do prize extroversion. There's a lot of that's really good in Susan Cain's book, Quiet, which I've got back there
oh, not
on my
heard that.
shelf, which I'd recommend for anyone who identifies as being more introverted or a quiet person. But Western cultures do prize people who are more loud and outgoing. And so that does mean that there are a group of people who will view what you do as being boring. And actually, that's their judgment. But of course, isn't the case. It's still hard to not take that on and feel that, especially as a person who has longed to feel accepted, longed to feel like you belong. So many of these things all connect to different things we're talking about in different episodes as to why then it's not just so easy to just be like, well, if they think I'm boring, like it's fine. If you have really strived to want to fit in, feel accepted, feel like you belong, to not feel different, then there's going to be a pressure that you put on yourself to meet these certain expectations rather than being able to actually just put that down, walk away, just be you and know that it's okay.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just wondering, I'm just thinking about the kind of family link again, because it sounds like we have quite different experiences in terms of our family. So neither of my parents have been pub culture type people. I think they'd all spend time in pubs, but my dad drove for a living, so he wouldn't be able to do that. Yeah, I think both my parents are introverts, so there's never been
Okay.
that kind of thing. Yes, I suppose I feel like I've never quite had that pressure in that way. I suppose what I'm thinking about is the meaning that we make of how we see ourselves in terms of being boring or not. And I think this is why it's not such a big thing for me because yeah, because that pressure wasn't there, and it's not what I value. And probably because I think people who do the kinds of things that you're talking about boring. Not do I find them boring, or I would be bored if I was spent time doing what they were doing. That feels different.
Yes. Well, that is where you're trying to then not place the judgment in reverse of saying, oh, well, I think they're boring,
Yeah.
which to an extent is a bit like, well, I do find that boring. I would find being sat in the pub for 4 hours
Yeah.
boring.
Yeah.
But that's the difference between saying, I would find that boring rather than you're being boring. That makes me think, why do some people feel like it's okay to tell people they're being boring because they don't want to do what you want to do?
Yeah.
If you've been out and that person has had enough and they're ready to go home or they're ready to leave the party at 10 p.m., why is it some people then feel like that it's okay to tell that person, what, you're leaving now? Oh, don't be so boring, stay out longer.
Yeah.
If someone said to me, oh yeah, I was in the pub last night, I was there for 6 hours or whatever, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, why are you so boring? I would never say that to somebody else. So again, it's like, well, why do people feel okay to put that on you? It's not a nice thing to say to somebody, is it?
Yes. Yeah. There is such a difference, isn't there? That I wouldn't ever say to somebody who was doing something that I found boring, oh, you're boring. And I wouldn't see them as boring. But yeah, so it felt important to kind of pull out that distinction of, yeah, who you are as a person versus someone's opinion on how interesting or enjoyable the activity is. Yeah.
I wonder what it is about human nature where we think it's okay to just continually comment, but the comment is usually or it feels like it's usually holds judgment in it. So there's offering a judgment and commenting on the way in which a person is being and the decisions that they're making, and whether that's, oh, don't be so boring, or you need to lighten up, or oh, you're being quiet, aren't you? Or oh, don't be so serious. That there's just so many judgments, comments that people make on your way of being in the world. And maybe I need to think about this more, because I'm probably just thinking of it this way because of what I've experienced, but it feels like it's all in one direction.
Okay. Yeah, okay. At you.
At me and people, well, people for who this podcast is for.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's reality, and that's just because of looking through the lens of my own life experience.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I'm kind of holding a few people in mind as we're talking about various things. And I'm aware that I feel like yeah, so when you kind of said it's all like in one direction, and I said like at you, I feel like I can see all the fun people here, and then, you and people that are like us here, and almost like there's something kind of here. And I'm just on the sidelines watching it all like, what does this mean? I think I think part of it is like, what is it that means that this isn't such a hook for me? And what, but also that it is in other ways.
Mm.
Also that it is in other ways, that I really don't like that feeling of being dismissed. If I feel like someone is responding to me as if I'm too serious or too boring or not interesting, or which, I can hear as I'm saying, it feels like coming back to being not good enough or not fitting in or not belonging, or yeah. But I'm really interested in how it is for you, and what you might need to be able to be more comfortable with it. And I think part of me feeling, oh, like I don't want you to be sad about it because you're great. I don't think you're boring at all.
And that's
Yeah.
it. I don't think I am boring.
Yeah.
It's just messages that I've received so much over life and in various different ways, that even though I don't think that I am boring, there is that part of me
Mm-hmm.
that still worries about it. I think I'm worrying about it less and less. And so it's something that I would say is a work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
For saying you and I have had quite a lot of similar experiences, or even if our experiences have been different, we've kind of felt a similar way. I do find this topic then interesting in relation to fitting in and belonging, that it's not something that you have overly had experience of. And if you feel like generally your family were more quieter and more introverted, then that expectation wasn't there. And I guess if you're someone that then finds yourself making friends with like-minded people who like to do the same thing, and as you get a teenager, if that stays the same, or and as an adult, if that stays the same, then the pressure to be different or feeling like you need to be different maybe isn't as strong. And it sounds like, from what you've said about your experience, that it meant that those messages weren't there for you in the same way, potentially just due to the people that you were surrounded by.
Yeah. So you said about the part of you that worries about it. Say a bit more about, what is it that you worry about? Or what is it that that part worries about specifically when it comes to being boring? What's the fear behind it?
I want to say I just don't want to be perceived that way, but there's obviously going to be more to it than that.
So what if you are perceived in that way? What does that mean?
I think it just comes back to wanting to belong. But I've just spent so long wanting to belong in spaces that actually I don't belong. But I've desperately wanted to belong, and found it hard when I've seen other people in my family or peers then being accepted in those spaces, and I'm wanting to have that. I think essentially what I've realized, and I feel like we need to talk a little bit more about both of our realization about being neurodivergent, because that's also such a big part of this.
Yeah.
Recognizing yourself as neurodivergent, recognizing yourself as a highly sensitive person, or somebody with a very sensitive nervous system. I think it all comes back to the same thing, but ultimately it's recognizing that I've spent so much of my life trying to be neurotypical.
Yeah.
And anytime I get it wrong, it's like, oh, I'm not being neurotypical enough. And I think that's what so many of these things come back to. It's feeling a sense of difference, of wrongness, of I'm not being accepted here. I don't feel like I'm belonging. So I need to be more like this.
Yeah.
When this is not actually who I am.
Yeah.
And I think that's why over time, the fear of being boring is getting less and less and less, the more that I'm accepting, but that's not who I am though.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So when you put it like that, what I hear is that your way of dealing with it has been to, I guess, to kind of shape shift a bit, or to try and fit in, to try and belong. And I think my way of dealing with it has just been to withdraw, to just be like, well, I don't fit in here. I'm not going to be accepted
Yeah.
here. So why try?
Yeah. A memory that just popped up for me there. It's not necessarily related to being boring, but I remember when I finished my master's degree and somebody in my family, I was in a pub, and somebody in my family said, so what are you doing now? And I said, I think I might do a PhD. And the response that I got was, like, why? Facial expression and the tone was just dripping with some sort of judgment. And I couldn't get my head around it. Like, well, why not? I don't know. Why would I not want to do a PhD? Why would I not want to do the next level? Why would I not find research interesting? It's those kinds of things. So in the past, I would try to shape shift and think, that's not a good thing to do then. Or I probably shouldn't do that then.
Yeah.
Whereas then I reached the stage where, now I need to get you on board and convince you to be on my side. So now I need to get you to shape shift
Yeah.
to give me the response that I would want, which would be, wow, that sounds interesting. Or why do you think you would want to do that? And now I'm trying to start to move away from that place of wanting people to get on board with how I am. So it's like, first I need to change myself so I can get on board with how you are.
Yeah.
Then I reach the stage of now I need to get you on board with how I am.
Yeah.
And now I'm at the stage where I'm just trying to just be myself, and you don't have to get on board and I don't have to get on board. And I'm not fully there yet. I'm still sometimes wanting people to get on board with me, but that's the bit that I'm now trying to shift essentially.
Yeah. 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 I can really hear the journey in that. Just such creative attempts to solve the problem.
Yes. How
Yeah.
do you feel about, you said rather than you trying to shapeshift, you feel like you withdrew. And so thinking about this from your experience and your side of things, and then what it was like to withdraw. So I went down the shape shifting route, you went down the withdrawal route. Do you feel like there were any benefits or downsides to then for you to withdraw?
Yeah. So I feel like the obvious downside to withdrawing is that you can be quite lonely, and that can have all kinds of impacts, different ways that completely out of awareness I've tried to compensate for that loneliness. I feel like it'd be helpful to think of some things on the spot. The first two that come to mind are comfort eating and tipping into obsessional thinking, and being busy all the time. They're great ways to deal with loneliness. Great. They're not great, they're terrible ways.
No, if I know what you're saying.
They are also creative ways of dealing with this. I think the upside is that I do genuinely have parts of me that I just really don't care that much what people think about whether I'm boring or not. The one place that I can really think that this comes up for me is on social media. So when I'm doing my social media for my private practice, I often feel like, I don't go out enough. I don't have fun photos to share or fun videos to share or, stories to share about what I've been up to, because I've got 5 kids, I'm doing a master's, and I've got a private practice. Like, most of my life is taken up with responsibility. And I am actively at the moment trying to work on making more space for having more fun. So that is somewhere that it comes up, because I feel like probably getting tangled up in that kind of Instagram perfect life, and feeling like I should at my age have fun things to share all the time, and I don't. um, so in that way, I feel like I do see my life as I was going to say I do see my life as boring, but I suppose that I kind of feel conflicted in that. It's kind of, I think it's when I move out of myself and look at my life through the eyes of other people. And again, it's through the eyes of what I imagine to be quite judgmental people whose
Mm.
opinions I don't actually care about. So when I look through their eyes, I imagine them looking at my life and thinking, oh, that's boring. But when I'm in my life, I don't experience my life as boring. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So yeah. So I feel like the main benefit of it is that I'm just really not that bothered what people think about my life. I think one of the main, so you touched on us realizing that we're neurodivergent and how that's impacted things. I think one of the main ways that I have learned to not care about what other people think is through raising a neurodivergent child. So when my when one of my children would have meltdowns or be on the verge of a meltdown on the way into school, and they would like kick their lunchbox down the road, or would be refusing to go in, like I could just feel I could feel people staring at me. And I was
Mm.
really young at this point. So I could just feel kind of people staring at me. So I had to stop caring what they thought. And what I told myself was if they understood, they would be ashamed of themselves for judging me.
Mm.
And I feel
Yeah.
like that has served me really well in lots of other situations as well. And yeah, a lot of my life has been lived in survival mode. That doesn't make space for a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to judge me as boring, I mean, fine, but I've had to spend a lot of time working through difficult emotions and dealing with difficult, relationship dynamics and raising 5 neurodivergent children and, all the rest of it. That, okay, if you want to judge me for that, okay.
Yeah. Firstly, I love almost like the little mantra that you have about if people could understand my situation, they would be ashamed of themselves for judging me. I love that. I think that's really true. You've brought in a really great point about the perception of what it is to be boring, stories that we've had about being boring, all the different ways in which that can manifest. And then also the other side of it, when we're thinking about what it means to be able to be fun and have fun, not in a what the world judges as fun, but just when we ourselves have space to be able to be playful. We speak a lot about the importance of play as adults. So, like playful, fun, and to be able to access that part of you, well, you always need to be able to let go, don't you? When I think of like fun and laughter and play, I almost think of the word freedom for some reason. It's just making me think of being free.
Yeah.
And so you can't access that if you're burdened, if you're emotionally blunted, if you've gone through a lot of difficult things, if you've lived life in survival mode, if you've been through trauma. So there are so many different things that we may also have been through in life that take away our ability to access being fun. It feels like that's a really important part of this conversation, especially when we're thinking about, okay, how can we learn to recognize and accept what it is that we find fun and know that that's okay if that's not culturally what a lot of other people would say is fun. But also, if we're finding it hard to access fun because of everything that we're going through, again, being able to hold some compassion for that. And at some point, or if we can, figure out ways, even just micro moments of being able to access some of that, even if it's just in a small way.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say to somebody who was really in a place of struggling with feeling like they were boring and not fun enough?
It's about recognizing the benefits that you maybe get from your type of fun. And if you weren't to do those things, well, then what would life look like for you? So I know for myself, my boringness, which isn't boringness, but just to go with it for now, my boringness means that I quite enjoy living a slowed down, quieter life that creates space for creativity, depth, reflection. I love a cozy night. I like my familiar hobbies. It creates a sense of stability and security and joy. So it's recognizing that there are things that other people might label as boring, but they might light you up. They might feel like good things to you. And so it's also possible that we could shift our mindset to that thing then being a strength
I really like the way you said that. I really like the way you said about like kind of lighting up. It felt like there's something there about permission to be lit up by what lights you up. Allow yourself to really feel the joy that you get from the things that you enjoy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just reclaiming the word boring, knowing that there will be some things that you do that will seem boring to other people. But if it's not boring to you, then how could that be a bad thing? What about yourself? What would you say?
I feel like I had some answers when I asked you the question, which is partly why I asked you the question, because I was like, oh, I wonder what Carly thinks about this. And now I can't even remember what I thought. What do I think? What would I say? I think I would probably encourage the person to think about the meaning that they're making about being boring. Like what does it mean? What does it mean if you're boring? What does it mean if other people think you're boring? Because I think like many things that we talked about, there's something deeper underneath probably that needs addressing. And also that it can be really hard to not fit in and it can be really hard to not belong. And that, yeah, maybe that some space is needed to deal with the feelings that come up with not belonging in certain spaces. To the space that I talked about earlier, I am fairly sure I'm going to have to come to the conclusion that it's not the right space for me. As much as I wish it was, I don't like how it makes me feel. So I could push myself I could push myself to fit in. I could push myself to be more comfortable with being different in that space. Or I could decide that actually this isn't the right space for me and leave that space, which will then create more space for something new where I might be able to find more people that are on my wavelength. But yeah, I think that caring what other people think about you is such a big one and can be really hard to let go of. And I feel like I've had to learn the hard way multiple times.
There's been a few times in my life where I've been around people who have said, oh, I just don't really care what other people think. And I'm like, oh, I wish I could just put that in a bottle where I could have that sense of not really caring too much about what other people think.
Yeah.
But when you do, you do. A bit like how I described earlier, sometimes we just find ourselves moving through these stages and starting to move more and more and more away from caring about what other people think. And there will always, I think, be a part of you that, of course, cares a bit about what people think because we're biologically wired that way. But it's hard when you've internalized the idea that you are boring. But I would say for anyone listening who relates to this, to answer the questions that you put to me. When you're noticing that you're worrying about someone, thinking that you're boring, you ask yourself, okay, why? Why am I worrying about that? What does it mean if they do think that I'm boring? And getting curious about what it is for you that lies underneath that. And again, it comes down to if everybody in the world just enjoyed the same things, like then the world itself would be a boring place, wouldn't it? We need that variety of people and ways of being in the world and holding different interests. And so, what it is that you find interesting and fun to you is that matters. And equally, I know we've only just touched upon it, but equally for those who are maybe in a place where they're struggling right now to access any of the more pleasant emotions.
Yeah.
When we're really struggling, it's very hard to access those. And if we're emotionally numb, well, we're numb to all emotions. So that is going to be hard. And that's a very different journey. But it's also about recognizing that it doesn't have to feel that way forever.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you'd add on to that?
No, I almost want to. I feel like I almost want to be able to give some breadcrumbs to people to be able to reach the place that I've been able to reach about, just don't care what they think. But like I said before, it's been a hard journey to get to not caring. That actually it's almost come from a place of necessity. And maybe that's part of the thing is about recognizing I just feel like I'd got into such a bad place about caring what people thought about me that it came down to either I have to stop caring what they think about me or this is going to continue to make me really unwell in ways that I don't want to be unwell.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be as flippant as to say that it's a choice because It wasn't like I just woke up one day and was like, oh, well, I'll just stop caring what people think. But I think was a conscious, effortful, repeated, consistent decision to bring my focus back to what do I think? What do I think about me? Yeah. Am I bored? Am I bored of my life? That's something to address.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think there can be some of that, particularly, with trauma histories or being neurodivergent or, kind of having a sensitive nervous system and that perhaps not having the same capacity as some other people, that, yeah, sometimes I have to spend the day in bed and it's boring. And so that's a different kind of emotion to work through. But continually coming back to what do I think about me? How am I living within my values and my preferences? And yeah, I think, and I think maybe recognizing the futility of looking at other people and wishing I was different or wishing they were different or
Yeah, it just creates so much personal suffering.
yeah.
I think there's a lot of wisdom in what you've just said.
Yeah. If you've ever been called boring or feared you were, you're not broken. You're just not playing by society's extrovert rulebook.
This week, notice one small way you could lean into your version of fun, even if someone else would call it boring.
Next time, we're talking about Too Cozy to Care, the art of hibernation season. When the world speeds up for Christmas chaos, we're slowing down, wrapping up, and letting ourselves rest without guilt. Think hot tea, low light, and zero productivity pressure.
But for now, we'll leave you with this. What does fun look like when you define it on your own terms instead of society's?
That's all from us today. If this episode made you feel a bit less alone, the best way to help us reach more people is to subscribe, rate the podcast, and follow Too Much Apparently on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
Those simple clicks help other sensitive humans find us when they need it most. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon.